My fellow Americans, tonight I'd like to talk with you about immigration. For more than 200 years, our tradition of welcoming immigrants from around the world has given us a tremendous advantage over other nations. It's kept us youthful, dynamic, and entrepreneurial. It has shaped our character as a people with limitless possibilities. People not trapped by our past, but able to remake ourselves as we choose. But today, our immigration system is broken, and everybody knows it.
In Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 4 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress is granted the sole right to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. On November 20th, 2014, President Obama exerted the executive power vested in him by Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution to not enforce existing immigration laws. This speech introduces the executive order on immigration and makes a call to Congress to act on the same issue. The speech is policy being made in the implementation phase of the policy cycle. It is also an illustration of how implementation of a policy can set agenda in a new policy.
When I took office, I committed to fixing this broken immigration system. And I began by doing what I could to secure our borders. Today we have more agents and technology deployed to secure our southern border than at any time in our history. And over the past 6 years...
In this speech, Obama justifies his actions by stating that immigration policies are underfunded. As a result, he has to prioritize what he will implement. Having lost significantly in the midterm elections 2 days prior, Obama is declaring that he is still relevant by forcing action on an issue of his choosing. Obama is shaping his immigration strategy to push his agenda.
Meanwhile, I worked with Congress on a comprehensive fix. And last year, 68 Democrats, Republicans, and Independents came together to pass a bipartisan bill in the Senate. It wasn't perfect. It was a compromise. But it reflected common sense. It would have doubled the number of Border Patrol agents while giving undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship if they paid a fine, started paying their taxes, and went to the back of the line. And independent experts said that it would help grow our economy and shrink our deficits. Had the House of Representatives allowed that kind of bill, a simple yes or no vote, it would have passed with support from both parties. And today it would be the law. But for a year and a half now, Republican leaders in the House have refused to allow that simple vote. Now, I continue to believe that the best way to solve this problem is by working together to pass that kind of common sense law. But until that happens, there are actions I have the legal authority to take as president, the same kinds of actions taken by Democratic and Republican presidents before me, that will help make our immigration system more fair and more just. Tonight, I'm announcing those actions.
This PBS NewsHour interview, which aired the night before the President's speech, illustrates some of the political background behind how this policy has been developed and the potential implications of making policy in the implementation phase.
McCain and others have said this is an unconstitutional move that the President is taking. What's your response to that?
Not at all. It's well established through historical precedent and Supreme Court case law and legislation that, look, every law enforcement agency has the right to decide how are they going to use limited resources. Are they going to go after everyone? Well, they don't have the resources, so they have to set priorities, target resources. The discretion is absolute. So it makes sense that President Obama's contemplating saying, these people here are low priority, deep roots, been in the country, have citizen children. Let's protect them, and then we'll use the resources to go after the bad actors, the drug dealers, the national security threats, the serious criminals. So, look, and over the past 60 years, every president since Eisenhower, including Reagan and George W. Bush, has used executive action in the immigration arena. George H.W. Bush took a step in 1990 to legalize roughly half the undocumented population with work permits. There was no controversy about executive action then, and there shouldn't be now.
Josh Blackman, what is the constitutional argument here?
So the president has a duty to take care of the laws if faithfully executed. So while he does have discretion, I don't agree that it's absolute. I think the important point to make is this goes far beyond what's been done before. It's unprecedented. Frank mentioned that George H.W. Bush granted deferrals for 1.5 million. I think the key factor to remember is these were people who were related to those being naturalized by the immigration laws.
Josh Blackman, is this the camel's nose under the tent?
Well, I think the bigger issue is what this means for future presidents. So if I can indulge for a second, imagine if President Ted Cruz decides not to enforce environmental laws. Or imagine if President Rand Paul decides not to enforce a corporate income tax. The president's ability to suspend the laws and not enforce them raises serious implications. I want to see what the legal implications are. Where are the limits of the ability of the president to not enforce the laws? And I want to see what are the memoranda making that point.
This 2009 C-SPAN interview highlights that we do not need to indulge. Rather, we can look back at the Bush administration's failure to enforce the Clean Air Act, which led to the Supreme Court ruling against the administration in 2007 in Massachusetts v. Environmental Protection Agency. We will have to wait to see if Obama's executive order on immigration goes to the Supreme Court.
When the agreement is actually supposed to be reached.
In the meantime, the headline in the Washington Post is "Winds of Change Evident and U.S. Environmental Policy," and it says that a story here written by Juliet Elperin that there are many things happening within the Obama administration when it comes to environmental policy. One thing is what the EPA has done or is about to do. What is it?
Sure. Well, the Supreme Court 2 years ago in 2007, about 2 years on this Thursday, April the 2nd, came out with an opinion in Massachusetts versus EPA. And that was a decision that was about 10 years in the making in terms of there was a long process going on here to try and get the EPA to regulate for greenhouse gas emissions from motor vehicles. And the Supreme Court ultimately decided that EPA did have to make a decision about whether climate change affects public health or welfare. And the Supreme Court basically told EPA to go back and review that decision. The Bush administration had resisted it for many, many years. And so what you have now is the EPA implementing that process, and we have now at the White House reviewing this document that the EPA has been putting together for the last 2 years. It was kind of resisted for a while there in the Bush White House. It's a document that links the science of climate change to threats to public health, to rising seas, to increased incidents of disease, of unusual weather patterns, and of more ferocious hurricanes. A whole range of things that this document describes, and then from that document kickstart sort of the potential regulatory process where we would see regulations on motor vehicles, we could see regulations on power plants, on chemical manufacturers, just a whole range of the biggest industrial sources around the country. It's many years of regulations that are ahead. Really nothing on the regulatory front has started yet, but it's right on the precipice of happening.
The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half-century. And to those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer. Pass a bill. I want to work with both parties to pass a more permanent legislative solution. And the day I sign that bill into law, the actions I take will no longer be necessary. Meanwhile, don't let a disagreement over a single issue be a deal breaker on every issue. That's not how our democracy works. And Congress certainly shouldn't shut down our government again just because we disagree on this. Americans are tired of gridlock. What our country needs from us right now is a common purpose, a higher purpose.